Getting the right people in your business is what decides whether you succeed or fail. I learned the hard way after 4 years of trial and error, but when I figured out how to successfully hire, my business crossed 7 figures almost instantly. But did you know that hiring, the most difficult skill in all of business, actually is a skill that you can learn like anything else? I realized as I was helping my client hire 2 new therapists to his practice that these frameworks can almost guarantee your chance at success. And not only will this apply to you if you run a big group practice with a lot of employees, it'll also apply to you if you're an employee for somebody else's practice, or if you have a solo practice and you hire vendors or agencies, basically any way in which you buy back your time by hiring other people. So what's the secret to good hiring? In this video, I'm going to walk you through my simple framework to building your dream team so you can build your dream practice or any organization where people are required. All right, hopefully everyone can see this. This is the hiring masterclass, subtitle How to Land A Players. And the reason I'm putting this together is, let me show you the next slide. Click. Your organization is only as good as the people within it. And finding the right people is the hardest problem in all of business. I earlier this week got a chance to connect with another 7-figure entrepreneur who's also named Griffin, which was really interesting. And he was talking about he's been in business for 10 years or 15 years. And he's like, people is always the hardest problem. It's in every single industry. It's just, it's a difficult problem. Hiring people, training people, retaining people, giving them growth opportunities. But if you learn this skill, almost every other skill is irrelevant. And I will say it's not just about this is obviously in the context of building a group practice. It's not just about how do I go out and hire other clinicians to work with me. It's also how do you hire the admin staff? It's, if you guys are working with me, how do you hire a mentor or coach to help you? It's how do you hire the right businesses or vendors or agencies to serve different parts of your business and how do you build community around yourself? How do you find your significant other? Like it's building the right relationships really is the difference of an incredible life and not so good life. Pretty much in every single circumstance, everything can be boiled down to a people problem. Even skills and learning skills, which are necessary to build the business, other people have those skills, and you can either employ those people, you can contract out to them, or they can teach you those skills, and that's the answer to building the business, right? So I cannot emphasize enough how important people are to your business, and so I want to outline really a specific framework for hiring people within this. Okay. And again, this means business partners, employees, contractors, mentors, and more. Okay, so how should you go about solving the people problem within your business? I want to share some stuff with me, how I started hiring, and you guys can tell me later if this sounds kind of familiar. When I started out in business, I learned how to work hard, how to generate revenue, how to work with clients, and do a lot until we were making, 10,000 a month or more. To when I started hiring people, I hired some friends to do some of the like building out websites and some stuff on the side. I eventually hired a coach, but when I hired people, I really didn't know how to train them. I didn't really know where to put them. Their hours were very inconsistent. I really hired because I felt stressed rather than hiring because I had a specific problem that I wanted solved. I felt kind of lonely and I felt kind of stressed. And that was how I started hiring. After several years, like I've, hired probably close to 20 people at this point, I've become a lot better at it. And what that's meant is that I haven't just hired friends or hired the first person that I could find. I've been a lot more intentional about it. I've had to have a lot more interviews to get fewer people, and I've generally gotten better people than I have earlier on. But I say that all as context to say, like, where I'm talking about hiring from, I am by no means a master. I have not. I think if you've hired 500 people, you probably have a lot better knowledge than I do, but I think I have enough to say here's a general process for hiring enough great people that you can build towards a seven-figure organization. Okay. All right. So when should you hire? This is also like one of the most important pieces within building an organization is hiring the right people at the right time. The right person at the wrong time can be terrible for your business. The wrong person at the right time can be terrible at your business. You got to get both, right? So general checklist on when you should hire. Number one is when you have money, so you can afford to pay that person with the cash flow of the business. There's other business models like venture capital, Silicon Valley, where they will, have a bunch of investors up front to be able to pay for people with the hopes that the business will eventually grow. For most of you, that is not the case. You should make sure that there is actual cash flow to support the pay of some person. That might mean coming out of the sessions that you do, but it should come out of the business. It shouldn't come out of your pocket to hire people. And if you don't have enough money to hire someone else, you might have to hire part-time people. You might have to hire people overseas, like VAs that are cheaper, or you might just have to do a little bit more yourself until you generate enough revenue that you can pay for everything else, right? And you have to generate enough revenue to pay for the rent and the people, um, and have a little bit left over to pay yourself, which is also really important. Okay. Now, specifically for a group practice, when should you hire? Kind of two things, right? Basically, only two reasons. And you can notice on this, it's not when I feel stressed. It's or when I don't know how to do something. It's increasing capacity and buying back your time. There's a good book on buyback, buy back your time by Dan Martell, who's a former, entrepreneur, built software companies. Now he's a coach who helps a lot of people improve their businesses. He has this principle called buying back your time, which means you don't just hire when you feel like it or necessarily just to increase capacity. You focus on replacing the tasks that you are already doing and starting from yourself, not starting necessarily from the organization, but starting from yourself so that you get more time as the organization grows. Okay. This is an important principle, but from the specifics of a group practice, when you are capped on sessions and you're doing 15, 20 sessions, a lot of times you can hire to grow the business to the next level, which means that you have more demand coming in, more inquiries that are coming in than you have supply. So you hire the next person to open up the expansion of the business. And we always talk about having the right rate split with those clinicians, um, making sure we have enough marketing to fill them, making sure that they're aligned on values. That's generally when you want to start hiring. It's going to be different for everyone, and some people are a little bit more capped on time within their own caseload, and so they'll be hiring a little bit sooner. Okay, but as a general principle, you want to have money and you want to have a business problem that you're solving with the hire. You do not want to hire just because you feel like it or because you feel stressed. If that's the case, a lot of times what you need to do is reprioritize uh, and set out a to-do list and get clarity. But oftentimes, one of the biggest mistakes that I've made is hiring too early before I had a process built out. And what that means is you hire someone else, you don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And it actually makes you move slower because now you're trying to manage someone and do all the work. Um, wouldn't recommend it, right? I would say it's better to first prioritize and learn how to generate revenue and then slowly bring on the right people at the right time. Okay. That's when to hire. There's so much context for building out the business that is important to know to give specifics to your situation. But we found that those are some lessons that I've found are really, really important. Okay. So an example we talk about here is hiring your first clinician after you make 8 to 10,000 per month and you're filling cap with the space. Okay, I have 3 inquiries that are coming in a week. I'm either going to refer them out or hire someone. Maybe when you're approaching that 8 to 10,000 a month, or right when you're there, you might hire that first clinician. And boom, that makes sense. Now, um, if you feel like you're working a lot and you just hire people, that might not make sense. Okay. So when you do know that it's time to hire, whether this means for an admin role in your business, whether that means finding you know, potential clinicians, whether that means um, finding whoever, this is a general framework that's very helpful. Number one is to get clarity on your ideal hire, your ideal person, and their profile, right? Core pieces of this, really, really important that we found is that they need to be aligned on the values of the business. Okay. And the values of the business are your values. So if you are somebody who never shows up to work on time, um, you might want to find other people that are somewhat like that. Hopefully, you're somebody who shows up on time and does the work. Uh, you generally want to hire people that are like you or at least aligned on values, aligned on mission, the vision, the values, which means that sometimes before you can hire the first person, you have to get clear on like, who am I? What do I want? Why am I doing this? So that other people will follow your cause. Because if you don't have a cause, they can't follow it. But that is number one for hiring people is you want to make sure they align on values. Because let's say you're hiring the best clinician in the world, but they don't have any of the same values as you. It's not going to last. There's going to be friction naturally that's created, right? So so do the self-inquiry to figure out yourself, and then from there you can build the values. Um, that you want to see in a new hire. Okay. And like I said, they have to be solving a business problem. Now, that can mean capacity. We have too much demand for the supply that we have, so this increases supply. Maybe you want to get off of taking phone calls and new inquiries so that you can take that time and put it into something that's more high leverage. Then maybe they're solving a business problem that you're having. Um, but there needs to be a tangible problem that they are solving, and you need to have mapped out how to effectively run that process. Okay, so if you hire someone to take on the phones, you need to have a script to say, you need to have the ability to train them. You don't just throw people in there, right? If you want to be a good entrepreneur. And then they must be competent in the skills required for the role. So I, as I started out in business, I really believed in potential and believe that everyone can learn and can be trained. I've become more and more on the side of find the people who already have the skill set. Um, it will save you 6 months of time or a year of time because anyone who has not learned the skill may or may not actually have the capacity to learn it, but someone else who's demonstrated success in that area that's important for the role, it's going to have that ability, right? So again, if you want a clinician who's great at EMDR, find a clinician who's great at EMDR. Maybe you can find a trauma therapist who wants to learn EMDR. Okay. But if we can get really clear on this, it becomes a lot easier to interview, right? They have the right values, they have the right skill sets. This is a need for my business right now. I can afford the money to pay them, or I can see a path to where the business is growing as they're coming in, which is creating more revenue overall. If we do that, we're going to have a much more successful hiring process. Okay. After we're clear on that, we have to do a similar sort of marketing to what we have to do when we want new clients in our practice, which is to generate applications, generate interest, let people know that this thing exists, and then interview. Okay. If you cannot generate applications as a skill set you need to learn, it's very similar to marketing. If you're bad at getting clients for your own practice, it's going to probably be hard for you to get other clinicians. It's a skill set of getting attention, creating an interesting offer, which is your business, and the role within it, and then getting those people to take a step towards you and reach out with interest. Okay, and then interview. And the interview process is a great way to weed out and really get clear on who is good and who isn't. You're not going to ever be 100% perfect at interviewing, but I'll walk through some tips for that. Okay, so in summary, how to hire, get clear on who you want to hire, get clear on that now is the right time. Okay. Let's walk through the interview process then from there. Interviewing is also a skill set that you learn, and the more interviews you do, the better you'll get at it. But if you see the last slide that I had, you're mapping out values, the business problem that they're solving, and you're making sure that they're competent in these different skills. The interview is just reflecting that. Values and skills first. And what you really want to do when you are interviewing your potential hires is make sure that they have the same values as you, have the same skill sets, and they have the right character traits, right? So it depends. If you want, most people want people that are hardworking, competent, have high integrity. Get really clear on the what's necessary to fill the role, what great looks like, and ask the questions that are going to give you the best idea of that. One great question to add in the interview too is the why question. Like, what are you hoping to get out of this role? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you a therapist at all? If you have that clarity, you're going to you're going to kind of be able to see who kind of stands up to the test and who doesn't, who's not really on the same page as you. And do they actually care about the mission that you have? Like you might have a particular reason that you build your business. It could be faith, it could be profit, it could be impact, it could be a lot of different things. Are they aligned with that? And that doesn't mean you tell them what your mission is and say, hey, do you like that? It might mean asking them first, and then by the end, talking through kind of how your process works and seeing how they resonate with it or not. But the big thing I say with interviews is that don't expect that 100% of the people you talk to are going to be the right fit. The reality is it can be more like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10. The messaging you put out in order to generate new applications is going to determine a lot how quality the people are who come to find you. But even if you have really quality people, you want to talk to 5 great people or 10 great people for each role. This is not always realistic for people, but this is how you build a great organization is you have a lot of options. Again, if I can share mistakes that I've made before, is I've had a role open, I've interviewed 1 or 2 people, I'm like, they're pretty good, like they seem great, and hired them, and they didn't work out. Um, Having patience here, taking your time when interviewing is very, very, very helpful to your chances of success with the role. Okay. And then also make sure that the person that you want can actually commit the time that you need and can match the pay that you want to pay or that you're able to pay. Especially if you're a smaller business, you cannot pay the highest rate in the market. You can over time, but make sure that they match what you need as a business owner right now. Okay. And be clear on your compensation, what you're able to afford to pay, based on the role, based on the value that the role provides to your business. Okay. And there is truth to some roles are less valuable than others in terms of the marketplace. Okay. Now, I said creating friction and offering the position when you think, hell yeah. Creating friction just means same thing. We need to have more demand than we have supply. We want to have 10 applications or have 10 interviews to before we hire someone. If we have superstars and with 3 interviews or 5 interviews, it's okay to take those people on. But you want to think on the side of being more patient, talking to more people rather than jumping the gun and hiring someone because you think they probably are good. Okay. The metric here is to offer the position when you think, hell yeah. Um, Not to hire when you just need someone or this person's probably a good fit, but when you're like, this person's amazing, like this is exactly what I need for the business. If you're always doing this, you will still have people who don't work out, but you'll have way less people who don't work out. And you'll have a lot of people who you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis who you love to work with. And ultimately, if your organization is full of people that have the same values as you, that you love to work with, that are on the same mission as you, the business will go farther, the business will be more profitable, and it'll feel a whole lot better throughout the whole time. Okay. So again, that is the basic hiring masterclass. I'm going to just run through it. Um, Again, when to hire at the right time for the right person. So getting clarity on who you need, getting clear on the value of the problem that they're solving, the value that they generate, and what you can pay them. And then generating applications is a skill set like marketing, where we might, like for hiring a clinician in a group practice, we might access schools, we might access community platforms, we might go to Indeed, There's a lot of different things. We might go on social media. There's many different ways we can get our message out. We have to think about our ideal profile and get our message out to those people. And then from there, we interview usually over the course of like two calls, talking about values, talking about skills, maybe testing a little bit of clinic. Like you could ask them some clinical situations, see how they actually are as a therapist in a slight way before bringing them on. Last thing I'll say as well is one helpful framework is you don't have to do this, but sometimes not to commit to people right away. So if you can sign a shorter term contract, say, hey, this is for a couple months or this is for 1 month, that is usually helpful because some people don't work out. And setting the expectations up front that we have to see what it's like to work together, even though it all feels great, tends to make everyone feel great and on the same page because then anyone who passes that 1 month test ends up sticking for a very long time. And you only fill your organization with people that you love to work with that have proven that you like to work with them because you're working with them. Okay. So to set things up almost like a project off the start, right? If you do all of that consistently and you return and you burn these frameworks into your mind, um, you will find that your organization grows bigger and better. All right.